FYI information series webinar from PALCUS. We are very excited to be launching this series to provide information to the community on various programs and resources available to everybody. This webinar is being recorded, and so we will be able to share it with you after we are finished. Today's webinar is from the University of Massachusetts, their program called University of Massachusetts in Lisbon. It's the only year-round faculty-led study abroad program organized by an American university in Portugal. And today's webinar sponsor, we'd like to say thank you very much to M.L. Nunes and Associates, Certified Public Accountants in New Bedford, Massachusetts. We thank them very much for sponsoring today's webinar. If you'd like to ask a question, the questions are through the GoToWebinar panel only, as all attendees are on mute. So type your question into the chat box or the question box, and then I will read the question to the presenter. And today's presenter is Michael Baum, PhD, Professor Michael Baum, PhD, Program Director for UMass in Lisbon. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to him so he can tell you a little bit about himself and the program.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Angela. I really appreciate this this opportunity to say a few words about this major new project initiative that we've undertaken, and hopefully provide more information for both parents and students out there who are looking at this program. So I believe I have control now of the slides, I think. The down button is not working. Let me try one more time. Okay, it's not advancing. Well,
yeah, it says you have, do you want me to advance? It says you have control.
I'm pressing the down button, but it's not advancing. Let me try enter. No, the enter button isn't. Well, how about we, if you just want to advance to the next slide.
Okay, I'll just, you tell me when to advance.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry about that.
So no problem. So just in terms of who is behind this program, it's a kind of an unusual bird in that nothing like it has really been attempted at the University of Massachusetts that I'm aware of. It is a program based largely on the fact that I'm the director of it and initiated the program and designed it, and I'm based at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, where we have a Center for Portuguese Studies and Culture, led by Dr. Frank Souza, and it's sort of a team effort to expand this program. Even though Dartmouth is the lead campus, it is a program of the entire UMass system, and that was by design. We wanted to make sure that we had faculty from all of the 5 campuses, in effect actually 4, because I don't think the medical school will be participating, at least initially. So 4 of the 5 UMass campuses will have faculty rotating through this program and teaching in it, and that's why it's called UMass in Lisbon and not just UMass Dartmouth in Lisbon. Our host institution here in Portugal is ISCTE, also known as the Instituto Universitário de Lisboa, University of Lisbon Institute. And without the major financial support of the Fundação Luso-Americana, this program would probably not be possible. So I want to thank FLAD for all of their many support efforts at UMass Dartmouth, this being just one among several. Also, the Mark and Elysia Saab Family Fund has been extremely generous in giving us 5 $1,000 scholarships each semester to award to deserving students, both based on their academic merit and financial need. So I'd like to thank them. And of course, TAP Air Portugal, who came on board early on as a commercial sponsor, and they've been donating at least 1 free round-trip air ticket to a deserving student who applies for one of the scholarships. So those are our sponsors, not to mention the sponsor of this today's event. So briefly, the design of UMass in Lisbon is what, at least in the study abroad field, one could call a hybrid program. It's open to all undergrad students, and in fact, we also have possibilities for graduate students, which I can explain in more detail later when we get to the courses. but it's primarily designed for undergraduates. The coursework is, and here's where it gets to be hybrid. If we surmise that most of the students who are thinking about study abroad in Portugal probably want to improve their Portuguese, but we think there are probably relatively few who are absolutely fluent and could sit in a regular university course in Portuguese. If we have students like that, with that level of fluency, they can take any course that they want here, both Portuguese or English. But for the majority of our students, the courses that we provide are all taught in English, and then, of course, they take Portuguese language and culture courses on the side, depending on whatever their level of Portuguese fluency is that they need. The courses are both taught by UMass faculty, in this case myself this year when I'm here for the first year as the director of the program. But we also have 3 other courses each semester that we hire locally, meaning we hire the instructors here in Portugal who are fluent English speakers. Most of them have done PhDs in the States or in England. And they're teaching UMass courses, UMass catalog courses, just as if they were hired to teach on campus. And so these are easy to transfer. They would actually be courses that a student, let's say from California or Texas or wherever, would have those courses coming directly from UMass Dartmouth, not even as a foreign institution. So those are usually fairly easy for students to transfer. The other courses that students can take are courses that are taught in English by our host institution, ISCTE. And there are quite a few that are offered every semester. I would say on average probably around 20 courses per semester in several different fields. Primarily, their courses tend to be in the business area, management, marketing, finance. However, we also have courses that are offered in architecture and technology, in the School of Architecture and Technology. I'd say 3, maybe 4 courses in English. The School of Sociology and Public Policy usually has at least 1 or 2 sections in English. And then the School of Social Sciences normally has 3 to 4 courses that they offer in English each semester. So when you add them all up, between our courses and ISCTE's courses, students probably have about 20 different courses in business, social sciences, and humanities to choose from. The academic calendar here is quite flexible in terms of whatever students want to do. They can come for an entire academic year from September through May. They can come just for 1 semester, say from September to December, or late January through end of May. And we also have a summer program, which at the moment it's rather confusing because it's not exactly part of UMass in Lisbon. It technically kind of resides in a different institutional space, but for all intents and purposes, it is like UMass in Lisbon. And that program this year will run during the month of June into early July. The program cost for UMass in Lisbon is basically the same price as if a student were attending and living on campus at UMass Dartmouth. If they're in-state, the price is $10,650, including housing. If they are out of state, it's just under $14,000, again, including housing. And the other things that students get are field trips. For example, this semester we took the students to Madeira. We usually do 2 each semester, 2 overnights, I should say, where students stay in a hotel and get to know some other parts of Portugal. They also get a monthly transportation card here in Lisbon with metro and bus pass. They get a Portuguese cell phone and a SIM card, and they get quite a bit for their money, especially considering it's the same as what they pay to be on campus. And they can take up to 18 credit hours a semester, just as if they were on campus. And as I said earlier, we do have some partial scholarships available from the Saab Foundation. Students are eligible for up to a $1,000 award, and if they received the TAP round-trip ticket, that would also be worth about $1,000. Okay, next slide. As I kind of already introduced, the academic offerings are essentially 5 UMass-generated courses. Excuse me. Same as if we were teaching them on campus. These are courses that are in social sciences or humanities, and typically the business and science technology courses, those are the ones that are offered by our partner university, by Portuguese faculty who speak fluent English. And as I mentioned earlier, the language and culture classes are offered at various different levels in Portuguese, or if they, we'd prefer students who are here would take Portuguese, but if we had a student who was, let's say, midway through a Spanish or a German or a Chinese or an Arabic language program and they didn't want to lose that progression, the Language Institute here offers many more languages than we offer at UMass Dartmouth. They have Norwegian, they have Slovenian. I mean, they have literally every language you could possibly desire. Next slide. The instructors. The instructors are, again, always one UMass faculty member who will be teaching 2 of their regular courses. In my case, I'm Associate Professor of Political Science at UMass Dartmouth, and I teach in comparative politics, so I'm teaching courses that I would normally teach on campus. We make sure that the courses that are offered are taught in such a way as they're essentially no prerequisites, even though the course might on campus normally have a prerequisite. Here we've kind of tweaked them a bit so that really any student with some interest in the discipline and in the topic ought to be able to do the coursework, and that's something that I feel very strongly about. So 2 of the 5 courses that we offer are taught by a UMass faculty member, and then the other 3, as I said, are local Portuguese instructors with PhDs who are experts in their field, typically major publishers, major researchers in their field with enviable CVs and resumes. So you're getting top-notch, top-quality people through UMass in Lisbon. Okay, next slide. How do my credits transfer back? Pretty simply, the way it works is that if you take one of the UMass in Lisbon courses, one of those 5 each semester, as I said, then those credits will be sent to your school from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth as if you had taken the courses on campus via UMass Dartmouth transcript, etc. The other courses that you would take through ISCTE or even other universities here in the Lisbon area with whom we have partnerships, those are transcripted courses, just as if you were participating in any normal study abroad. What students normally get is a foreign institution transcript that comes back, and so that's what you'll get. You get a transcript from ISCTE or from the Universidade Nova that will say, what course you took and what your grade was in the Portuguese system. And then what we do, UMass in Lisbon, is we sort of try and make it administratively smooth for the student. We then have a table of conversion from the Portuguese system to the U.S. system. We provide a recommended grade conversion based on that table. Here in Portugal, they use a 0 to 20 scale, whereas in the States, obviously, it's an A, B, C, D, F scale. And then we submit that cover sheet in English explaining the translated transcript back to the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth with a copy to your home school, and the whole kit and caboodle is then sent to your university saying that you participated in the program and here are the recommended courses and grades which you received. Many students who participate in UMass in Lisbon will actually, and this depends on your school, typically would just get pass-fail credit. This is something that one has to negotiate or find out what your campus's policy is. Our students, UMass students, will actually get the grades for the UMass courses just as if they were doing them on campus, and they will count to their GPAs. But the foreign institution courses that they take do not count towards their GPA, and they're just essentially pass-fail. And it's probably similar policy at your school, but you'd want to check with your study abroad office. Okay, next slide. The academic calendar looks a lot like the typical U.S. academic calendar, albeit with some slight tweaks, which I can talk about in a second. This year, for example, classes started up, I think, on September 7th, if my memory serves, or maybe September 4th, and the classes ended just before Christmas, around December 21. So students who want and need to be home for the Christmas holidays can do so. In the spring semester, we started up on February 4th. Again, most students arrive the end of January, and we have, or the end of August in the case of the fall semester, and we have a full orientation program during that first week before classes start, with lots of field trips around Lisbon and getting to know the city and learning how the metro and the bus system works and where to find, places to eat and what to eat, and plus some just fun stuff and getting to know Lisbon by night, which is probably one of the best times to get to know Lisbon. It's a really exciting city. And then the summer session, roughly 4 weeks long, this year running from June 9th through July 7th, with classes ending around July 5th, but then we figure most students will fly home the following weekend. Now, we have a little note here, and that is that some of the exams in the non-UMass classes that students might take excuse me, may take place later after the end of the semester. Now, this depends on the course. It even depends on the professor. Some classes here will allow the students, so long as they have good attendance policies, to finish all of the coursework and exams by, let's say, December 21 or December 22, or in the case of the spring semester, they typically would finish up by the end of May, say May 28, 29, 30, something like that. However, there are professors, and there are, if you do not necessarily attend, I think it's at least 75% of the courses, you can then be forced, of the class meetings, I should say, you can be forced to sit the normal exam period, which for Portuguese students would be during the month of January for fall semester, or during the month of June for the spring semester. Now, we know at UMass that would be highly inconvenient for students who want to go home for Christmas, or students who might want to be back for a friend's graduation or even their own graduation in late May. So what we've managed to do has become quite common here in Europe with the Erasmus program, is we've managed to have students sit those exams back at their home university on the same day and time that the exam is offered here in Lisbon. And we arrange for a proctor, somebody from the student's home university, who can guarantee that the student would be sitting in a room with only the exam and the other whatever other aids the professor has indicated, and basically would take the exam in the same conditions as students are taking it in Lisbon, only they'll take it back in the U.S. or wherever they are, and then the exam is PDF'd to us, and we submit it that same day to the professor, and the student's grade is submitted after it's graded. So really we found ways to get around even this problem of potential for late exams. Okay, next slide. The student residence. Okay, so the student residence is quite spectacular in terms of, it doesn't look anything like your typical freshman or quad dorm in the U.S., at least compared to UMass. It's a 17th century monastery that has been transformed into an international student residence with about 70 students from all over the world who are residing there. The overwhelming majority of them are Erasmus students, so the European study abroad, but there are also Chinese students, students from all over Africa, especially Portuguese-speaking Africa, Latin America, many Brazilians, Argentinians, you name it. And so it's socially, I think it's one of the real flags about our program, in that unlike some American study abroad programs where students go and they take classes with other Americans or other English speakers, and they live with other Americans, and frankly, some of those programs can be not very different from just taking courses on campus, but in a different location. And what we really liked about our design is that it provides for a highly internationalized experience. Not only is the residence international, but one of the things that I forgot to mention about our courses is that the 5 courses that we offer are open to all of the international students and Portuguese students at ISCTE for no charge. So our classrooms are internationalized. I have students in my class this semester from Italy, from Finland. We've had Slovenians, Hungarians, French, German, you name it. And that makes for a very exciting classroom, especially when you're teaching, like I am, comparative politics or, comparative sociology or whatever, where you're dealing with international topics by nature, and it makes for a very, very fun classroom. The residence does have a modest, I would say, Spartan in some ways kitchen. I wouldn't recommend that you're going to make full course meals there because it just simply doesn't have the kind of space for that. But you do have access to an electric cooktop, several microwaves, a refrigerator. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to have small fridges in your rooms, but your rooms are, as you can see, are absolutely gorgeous and very high ceiling, large, with spectacular views over the Tejo River. They are double rooms unless you request a single, and you can pay a little bit extra for a single room. There is a washer and dryer on site. I call it the world's most beautiful laundromat. As you can see, it's got 17th century tiles behind it. And the washing machine is, I think, 50 cents per load, so it's really cheap. And your view is absolutely spectacular. Now the location is not the most desirable in the States. Typically the student dorms are right next to where you have classes or a short walk to them. Here in Europe, most universities don't have dorms. ISKT does, but it's located, I would say, about a good 45-minute commute from the campus. So, you can walk about 10 minutes to get to the metro, and then you take the metro to the closest stop to ISKT and then walk about 5 minutes up a hill. So all told, it's a good 45 minutes each way, back and forth. You can also take buses instead of the metro if you prefer, and if you catch the buses just right, maybe you can do it in about 30 minutes or 35, but I would say figure about 45 minutes each way. Okay, next. However, it's not like it's in a suburb. I mean, you are downtown and you're right on the river, and within 10, 15 minutes, you are in the heart of downtown at Tejera do Passo, in the center of the city. How much does it cost? I kind of already mentioned this, gave it away, but here it is again. If you are a Massachusetts resident, and this is true if you're attending, like this semester we have a student here from Lehigh in Pennsylvania, but she's a Mass resident, and so she's paying the price of being a Massachusetts resident, which is, I think, exceptionally good price for a semester study abroad program in Western Europe with housing and all the other extras that we provide. I dare anybody to find a price that's lower than ours, whether you're a Massachusetts resident or out of state. We're very, very competitive. If you are a New England regional student from any of the UMass campuses or what's called a proximity student, then you have sort of this middle level price. And for all out-of-state students, excuse me, just under $14,000 a semester. The summer session for 2 courses, 6 undergraduate credits, you would pay $35.50. Again, that includes housing and field trips and metro bus pass, and so that's a pretty good deal for 6 credits. And if you're taking them for graduate credit, it's only slightly more at just over $3,800. And again, we do have scholarships available both for the summer program and for the academic year program. Okay? And I would just add one last thing is if you are a financial aid student at your home university, you typically, for the academic year program in particular, semester or year, your federal financial aid normally applies for all of your study abroad expenses. So make sure that you check in with your financial aid office about participating in our program and find out how much of your federal financial aid. State aid is tricky, depends on the state. I have no idea exactly how your state aid will or will not apply. So that's something you need to talk about with on your home campus. What's included, again, I've mentioned up to 18 credit hours. Most students typically take either 12 or 15 credits. Double occupancy housing unless you pay more. All the field trips. Last semester we took students on an overnight to Porto with a stop off in Fatima. We then also stopped in Aveiro and had a boat, sort of a gondola tour through the town of Aveiro. We also stopped off in Milhada and had some lovely roasted pork. And then on the way back, we stopped in Óbidos and had a very nice quick visit through the town of Óbidos. We also did an overnight to the Alentejo region, including Évora and Monserrate, which is right on the Spanish border. And then this semester we went to Madeira, staying in Funchal and then touring the rest of the island. It was absolutely spectacular, 3-day trip. And later this semester we're going to take the students up to Porto again and also see Óbidos and hopefully do a slightly different tour than the one we did in the fall. It looks like we're going to be touring with the renowned writer, published author Richard Zimler, who, for those who maybe know his books, The Last Kabbalist of Lisbon being just one of them. He's an expatriate American who lives in Porto, and he's going to be our tour guide. So these are the kinds of things that we usually try and put together so that it's more than just tourism, it's also, an academic experience. The monthly public transport card comes with your program fee, as do all the admissions during your field trips, and you get the local cell phone and SIM card. Now, food is not included in our price, and students are responsible for their food. However, let me just say that you can eat really cheaply here. When you're on campus, you can use any of the student cafeterias where the meals are subsidized by the Portuguese government, and therefore all students can eat a hot meal, including a soup, dessert, plate of the day, for €2.40, which is I don't think even $3 right now. And also Lisbon, compared to other European capitals, is quite reasonable when it comes to food prices. You can eat lunch out at any cafe in Lisbon easily for about €5-6, and dinners, depending on where you go, you can eat as cheaply as maybe €8, €9, €10, something like that. The other thing that is included in our program is 24/7 assistance. So we have a full-time on-site director, Ricard Pereira, who is sort of like concierge service. I mean, you have access to his cell phone 24/7. So in terms of safety and anything that happens, you've always got somebody to speak with. Also, you have the UMass faculty member who is here on site as a backup to our on-site director. And of course, you also have access to the International Programs Office of Isquete, all of whom speak fluent English and who organize events for all of the mobility students. So you're really well covered here when it comes to support and safety. It's not like you just arrive at the airport and good luck to you. We meet you at the airport. We transport you to the student residence, and the orientation program begins the moment you arrive. Okay, next slide. Field trips, I mentioned some of the ones that we've already done, and we're planning more. I mean, we've had students take other field trips besides the ones I've mentioned on their own. On weekends, we've had students rent cars and get a group like this group you're seeing here, who went down to the Alentejo and Algarve coast. I believe that picture was probably taken close to Sagres, and for me, it's probably the most spectacular beaches anywhere in Europe. Students, who might have family living elsewhere in Portugal, of course, are free to go and take a long weekend if they don't have classes on a Friday. They could go take a long weekend and visit family located elsewhere in Portugal. We've had students talk about making a trip on their own to the Açores. I don't think anybody has done it yet, but it's a relatively cheap flight. And probably the best kept secret for American students who haven't been to Europe before are the low-cost airlines like EasyJet and Ryanair. I mean, it's incredible. You can fly for sometimes as low as 50 or 60 euros to Paris, to London, to Barcelona, Madrid, Moscow. I mean, EasyJet flies out of Lisbon, out of Porto. It's exceptionally easy to get around. You can fly to Morocco in less than an hour and 20 minutes. There's a lot of very interesting travel that you can do on your own from Lisbon, besides all the stuff that we organize for the students. And haven't even mentioned all of the many field trips and site visits that we do on site here in Lisbon as part of our coursework. So, for example, one of our courses we had last semester was Portuguese Art and Architecture, taught by two really top-notch faculty here in Lisbon, and they took students to museums and to the Expo 1998 World's Fair location, and had guided tours and lectures by people in those museums and on site. And those are the kinds of things that we just do routinely. I took students to the Portuguese National Assembly, and we had a guided tour there. And so there's a lot of really fun and interesting things that we do outside the classroom to sort of help bring the material that you're learning to life. Okay, next. Next slide. Why Lisbon? Well, I think anybody who's been here would say, what a silly question, because every student that I brought to Portugal, and I've been leading a study abroad program in Portugal since 2001, so I've had quite a bit of experience leading these things, and I can tell you virtually every single student that I brought here tells me they don't want to go home, they absolutely love it. I think I've traveled quite a bit in Europe and elsewhere around the world, and for me, I think Lisbon is just an incredibly special place. It has probably the best weather of any of the European capitals. It is located right on the west coast, so has a climate that looks a lot like Southern California, with absolutely gorgeous white sand beaches and fresh air that has come in off the Atlantic. Even in the summertime, I would say normal day is in the high 80s. Bright sun. At night you need a jacket because it gets chilly, maybe in the upper 60s. It's just perfect. And that kind of weather lasts well into October. And even now, I'm speaking to you in February, looking outside, it's bright blue and sunny. And today it's probably about 14 Celsius, which is up in the high 50s, low 60s. And then at night it might get into the 40s. Rarely sometimes into the 30s, but it's very much like Southern California weather. There's fantastic surfing. There's public transportation to get to the beaches. Lisbon as a capital has all of the history of any European capital, but here even a richer history considering the length of time that Portugal's been a unified state. It's also become increasingly multicultural, with significant minority populations that have grown tremendously in the last 2 decades from the former Portuguese colonies, but not only, and now there's a big East European community living here and a very large Brazilian community. So you can hear lots of different accents in Lisbon. It's not just the Portuguese continental accent. And I would say relative to most other major European capitals, it's really easy to find people who speak English here. If you don't speak any Portuguese and you're really struggling, typically it's quite easy to get around. I would also add for parents who might be listening to this, on a statistical basis, I can categorically tell you that Lisbon is the safest European capital in terms of violent crime, in terms of personal crime rates. It is exceptionally low, even within the European context, which again, relative to the U.S., is much lower than in the U.S. So, your son or daughter is, statistically speaking, safer here than walking down the streets of Boston. I can guarantee you that. Now, that doesn't mean that, of course, students don't have to be, careful as they would in any major city, especially with pickpockets, which is probably the most common worry here. But we cover all of this in our orientation activities, and so far, knock on wood, we've had nothing but very, very minor things occur. So why Lisbon? Because once you're here, you'll know why. Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. There we go. So on this PowerPoint, you can just click there, and it'll take you directly to our website, which has all of this listed in more detail. We also have a very active Facebook presence with student testimonials, and you can join our Facebook groups with students who are here now and actually see in real time, what they're talking about and what they're doing. We post videos of special events and evenings, like our farewell dinner. You'll see we have a video, I think, on the first page of this webinar. You can click on that and see what students say about the program. And also our webpage has testimonials from parents and from students who participated in the program. I think you really can't go wrong. It's just a very special place, and what you get with our program, I think, is fairly unusual. You get kind of, I call it the buffet style approach. You can take as much or as little Portuguese as you want. You can take courses in a number of different fields, and so we're open to students from really a wide range of majors. Next slide. Any questions? I've talked long enough.
Thanks so much, Michael. We don't have any. We do have one question here. Let me get that one. Are there student job opportunities on campus?
Great question. In fact, that makes me realize there was one major thing I forgot to mention. We are offering internship opportunities for students who want to do an unpaid internship. Now, the reason why I say they're unpaid is because when you are here for the academic semester or year, your visa, which you do need a student visa to be here for longer than 90 days, your visa technically prohibits you from receiving any paid income. So now, what students may or may not do, on their own, waiting tables or things like that, that's something that I, as director, really don't want to know about. and that's all I'll say about that. We don't have any students presently who are working, but technically, you're not supposed to. And as far as the internships go, we presently have 2 internships that excuse me, that we've set up. One is with a business startup organization that is trying to promote Lisbon as sort of like a startup place like Silicon Valley. And so that one is really geared to students from advertising, marketing, students with some background in blogging and Tumblr and all those kinds of technologies. And that is done in English. If you speak a little Portuguese, I'm sure it would be an asset, but they are ready and willing to accept students who are just English speakers. The other internship that we presently have online is more for students who are interested in sustainability and renewable energies. Portugal is a world leader. 40% of the country's energy is renewable right now. And this is an organization that is basically like a consulting company that buys and sells and trades in carbon credits as well as other forms of sustainable energy. And so they have opened up the possibility for students from, let's say, finance, economics, sustainability studies, engineers, even political scientists and economists would be welcome at this company. It's a small startup with, I think, about 7 or 8 people working in the office. Again, fully English-speaking office, so you don't need to speak Portuguese to do that internship. And the way that the internships work, essentially we use the UMass Dartmouth model, and it varies from department to department. So this will depend on where the student is coming from and where they want to get the credits. But I'll just describe quickly the political science internship that we offer. Requires a student to work approximately 140 hours over the 14-week semester. That would mean basically 10 hours a week. And they keep a journal and they write a paper about their experience at the end, and they get a grade by the internship supervisor, who would be based at UMass Dartmouth. Most of this work would all be done through email and, if necessary, Skype, but basically just through email and attachments. And of course, they get evaluated by their local supervisor to comments on their performance and whether they showed up when they were supposed to and did the work to their satisfaction. And all of that would get figured into the grade, which would be issued by the UMass Dartmouth faculty member who supervises that course. Now again, if you're not from UMass, or you're not from UMass Dartmouth, you would then have to work with your home department regarding the credits for the internship and make sure that UMass Dartmouth's requirements are similar to and acceptable by your home university. So that's what we presently have. We're also working to expand the internship opportunities. The other thing that I did not mention, but let me catch myself now. Presently, we only are offering the residents, the Ishkite dorm residents. However, we are in the process of looking at some other housing options as well. One would be the homestay options, living with a Portuguese family here in Lisbon. Presently, I have one Portuguese family who's interested in receiving a female student for the semester. They are not particularly interested in male students for the time being, but we are actively trying to recruit more families so that we would have eventually, a list of families who've been vetted by us, and we've deemed them to have, all the conditions to receive a U.S. student who might want to take this option. A fantastic option if you really want to learn Portuguese and really want to learn about the Portuguese culture. I think if you live in the residence, you will make tremendous friends from all over the world. It will be a really fun international experience, but I'll tell you, if your goal is to learn Portuguese, probably 99% of the time in the residence you're going to be speaking English as the lingua franca of all those international bodies. If you go out of your way and make an effort, of course, to make friends with the Portuguese students who live there, or the Brazilian students who live there, or other Lusophone students, you could, of course, make an effort to speak more Portuguese in the residence. But if you really, really want to learn Portuguese, you should live with a family. The other option that we are actively exploring for housing would be students living in off-campus apartments. Obviously, it's a bit more difficult to control in terms of safety and other issues, and so UMass is, let's say, we're exploring that option, but right now we would prefer and hope that students stay in the residence. As we develop that option, our website would update that. We might have differential pricing between living in off-campus apartments versus the price of living in the residence. But what we offer right now for the price that you see is the student residence, and it is spectacular. I mean, it is a very, very special place right on the river with tremendous views. So that was a long-winded answer to can you work here? The answer is technically no.
No, that's great. It's very thorough. So we do have a couple more questions that are coming in. One quick one will be, when is the deadline to apply for summer and fall 2013?
Okay. Technically, it is in about, 6 days, a week from now, March 1st. I can tell you that there will be an extension of that deadline. So right now, it hasn't been decided exactly how many more weeks we will give. I think it's a safe bet that you could get your stuff in through probably at least the middle of March. Maybe even I might be able to convince them to allow it to stay open through the end of March. But that hasn't been announced yet because obviously we would really prefer that students get their applications in the next week or so we have an idea of how many students we have on board. The process is simple. You can apply online through our website, and our Facebook page has a link to it. You fill out the online application. There's also a scholarship application form that you can download and PDF back. Once you are accepted by the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth as being eligible, and that means essentially a 2.5 GPA or higher, at least 15 credits under your belt. We don't want first-time freshmen here, but a student who's, let's say, completing, maybe has just finished their freshman fall semester and is in the middle of their second semester, they'd be totally eligible to be here. The decision by UMass is usually communicated within, a week or two of receiving the application, and then it's up to me as the director of UMass in Lisbon to agree with that acceptance, and I can tell you to date I haven't disagreed with any, so it's usually a mere formality. And then relatively quickly, the scholarship committee meets and notifies the student whether they'll be getting some extra help from us in the form of a discount. And then they also, receive their bills from UMass with the payment plan that they need, to follow in order to be all paid up and ready to go for the August or the January departure date. The deadline for the spring semester is October 1. So March 1 for fall and summer, October 1 for spring semester.
Great. And what is the process for acquiring a student visa?
Right. On our website, we have all the links to how you do this. There, you can apply for your visa, your Schengen visa. It's not actually a Portuguese visa. It's a visa for the whole Schengen area of the EU. You apply for it online. The trickiest part that we have encountered to getting your visa are actually your fingerprints. You need to get really good fingerprints that will not be rejected by the FBI. And this leads to my other headache, which is part of the visa process is you need an FBI criminal background check saying that, you're not an axe murderer. And that and this is something that takes a long time. The FBI backlog is, at least 4 to 6 weeks. So when students find out that they're accepted, we tell them immediately, get going on your visa. Once you submit the application, you get your FBI background check sent back to you. You've received it. Then you call up your local Portuguese consulate or embassy, and they will hold an interview for you to come and bring all of your documentation. Again, our website will tell you all the documentation you need to bring with you on the date of your interview. If it's not easy for you to attend a local consulate because there's not one really near you, then I believe there are other solutions that could be worked out. But that would, that's sort of an ad hoc solution that we would have to help the student figure out if it came to that. But as most of our students have come from either the East Coast region or the West Coast region, we haven't run into that problem yet. And once you have your interview with the local consulate and they approve it, they'll give you the visa stamp and put it in your passport, and you're good to go.
That's great. And just one follow-up question to that before we get to the next question asked by one of our viewers. Could you start the FBI background check process ahead of time, or do you need that acceptance letter from UMass Dartmouth for the FBI? Or can you start it on your own?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, no, I think the FBI background check is free, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, I mean, you could do that on your own even before you get formally accepted by us. The trickiest part is we've had students have problems with. They go down to their local police department and get their fingerprints done, and then they send the fingerprints into the FBI, and the FBI rejects the fingerprints, saying that they weren't clear enough. So, I would just caution us to go to a really professional place, talk to, even call up the Portuguese consulate, or you can even call the FBI itself and find out, do they recommend any particular place in your region to go and get the fingerprints done, because that has caused some problems. Now, we've gotten around this, we've had students through no fault of their own, did not get their FBI background check back in time for their flight. And the way we worked it out was that they were allowed to fly, because Americans can fly and Portuguese can fly to the U.S. visa-free, so long as you're staying less than 90 days. Longer than that, you do need a visa. And so what we managed to work out was a situation where the FBI background check, once it came back to the student's family, the family then took it to the Portuguese consulate. The Portuguese consulate made note of it. Then they notified the SEF offices here in Lisbon that everything was okay. I believe they then even mailed the background check through the mail to the student here. And then we organized a visit to the SEF offices in Lisbon and got the visa stamp put into their passport. It really wasn't a huge deal. So even in the worst case scenario, usually we've managed to finagle some kind of workaround.
Great. One of our viewers is saying that she's a dual citizen of both Portugal and the U.S., so does she need to follow through the same process as other non-Portuguese citizens if someone's only a U.S. citizen?
No, that student would be just like me. I'm also a dual citizen, and you know, I come and go frequently, and sometimes I come into the country with my U.S. passport. Sometimes I come into the country with my Portuguese passport. Usually, wherever the line is shortest is kind of the one I whip out. But no, if you're a dual national, then no, you don't need to go through you don't need a visa, and you don't need the FBI background check. You can just fly on your Portuguese passport, no problem.
And there's no restrictions on studying because they are a citizen of Portugal.
No, because they're here participating in our program. They're treated, you know, as if they were American citizens, which they are. And ISCTE has never asked us for the passports of our students or anything like that. So, no, it's they're considered like, you know, American study abroad students while they're here, and the fact that they are dual nationals and probably speak the language fluently would just be bonus, and it will make them very popular with their fellow students. And I would say for students like that, you know, who are totally fluent, you know, again, they have many more curricular choices that they can choose from, because obviously they can take any of the courses here at ISCTE that are taught in Portuguese. ISCTE, I should just say, is a school that, you know, it's not exactly like a U.S. university that offers courses in every discipline. You know, in that sense, it's not like a full-service university. It is very strong in social sciences, business. They do have a history department, so they do have some humanities courses, but they don't offer literature and, you know, courses, you know, in the arts, let's say. They do offer language courses, as I mentioned, Portuguese as well as a ton of other languages. And they do offer science and technology courses and public policy classes, sociology, anthropology, very strong in all those areas. In fact, if you go to the ISCTE website and just, you know, they have it in English or in Portuguese, you can look under, you know, what can I study, what are the courses of study, and you'll see the links to all of the various departments that are offered here. One, if I haven't overstepped my time limit, I would just say that we are also in the process of trying to expand the number of local Portuguese universities with whom we partner. So if all goes well, and again, this is, I'm sort of giving away something that is not yet green-lighted, but I just want students to know that I'm actively working so that we may have a partnership with the University of Lisbon, which is about 100 meters away here. I mean, you could just walk there in 5 minutes from ISCTE, and possibly with the Catholic University of Portugal, and possibly with the new University of Lisbon. And the idea would be that students, let's say, you know, we have somebody who wants to take advanced courses in Portuguese literature with, you know, with other students taught in Portuguese. Well, the University of Lisbon is the place to go. I mean, they have the best people teaching that anywhere in the world. And so our goal is that we would be able to register students who want that option without them paying anything extra. They would just pay our normal tuition and fees. We would register them in that university for the 1 or 2 courses that they want to take there, and then they would take their other courses through us here at ISCTE. And the idea is, you know, it's even in the case of Nova, it's a 10-minute metro ride from here, or, you know, you could even walk there from here. Catholic is a 10-minute walk up the hill. So, you know, we're hoping that we're going to get there, but this program just started this past September, and we have a lot of, I think, exciting ideas, but for right now, as I've described it, that's what exists at the moment.
Great. Just a couple minutes left, and wanted to address 2 things quickly before we end. Can students do consecutive years? Could they do like 2 years in a row if they wanted to through the program?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there would be any impediment from UMass's perspective. Now, you know, as a professor at UMass, I know that we have, you know, residential requirements, like the minimum number of credits that students need to do to graduate from the University of Massachusetts. I think in our case, if I'm not mistaken, it is 45 credits in residence of the 120 total that they need to graduate. And of those 45, I think 30 units, 30 credits, 10 classes, need to be done at the 300 level or higher. So, yeah, I mean, potentially a student that has already satisfied the residential requirements to graduate from, whatever their home university is, could probably find, in 2 years the courses that they need here. Of course, that depends, very much on what their major is, exactly how the courses are transferred back by their department, whether they're given exact equivalencies. I think it would be tough for a student to finish in 4 years, doing 2 years at UMass in Lisbon and 2 years at their home school. But there certainly would be no impediment from our end for them doing this. And if they wanted to do 2 years here, and let's say their home school didn't give them credit for exactly the courses they need, my guess is that with one extra semester back at their home university taking exactly the courses they need, they could graduate, say, 4.5 years and do 2 in Portugal.
Great. Well, our time is up, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. But I think we have some great questions, and it's a very exciting program. I wish I almost want to go back to school just so I could participate in the program.
Well, we're looking at developing graduate programs too. That's one other thing that's in the works. We're talking about a dual degree program between the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth and Ishkate, but that's down the road. I think that's going to probably be at least a year or 2 away.
Right. Well, we look forward to that. So with that, I would just like to let everybody know that there is a webinar archive. All of our webinars are currently posted on our YouTube channel. Eventually they will be on our website, but for now you can go to our YouTube channel and please share them with family and friends. They are meant to be shared and viewed by all. Our upcoming schedule is here. We have one coming up in March on the integration of Portuguese into American society. Then in April, we're going to be talking about Portuguese language programs in the United States across the board, both at the elementary school level, high school level, and college level. And then we'll be talking about another study program through Fulbright in May. I want to thank our sponsor again, ML Nunes and Associates from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Thank you very much. And with that, thank you very much for attending, and we hope to see you at our next webinar.
Thank you
everybody.
So much.
Have a good day. All right,
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.